Well, thank you guys so much for viewing this video. This is Phil, and I got my friend Chris, and he's owner of Keystone Lawn and Tree Care. You guys might have seen the previous videos where we did some podcasting and episodes on his channel. Make sure to check out his channel, Keystone Lawn and Tree Care. It's on YouTube. He's trying to grow his channel, and you're almost at 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I got about 800 right now.
Might be past while when this video uploads.
Yeah.
So. But I appreciate. Thank you for.
Thanks for having me.
For being on here, Chris.
Yeah.
We're just going to be talking about lawn care business. These episodes are mainly targeted towards people that are just starting out, or maybe in their first 3 years of business, 4 years of business. So just progressing. People that might be in business for 20, 30 years that have franchisees. This video is probably not for you, but maybe you can still gain something from it. So we welcome every type of audience on here. So without any further delay, let's get started.
Yeah.
What I wanted to talk today to you about, Chris, is marketing. And primarily, first question that I had for you was, what do you think is the best marketing strategy here in 2022? Because I know many people ask me all the time, hey, what do you do for marketing? And I don't like that sound.
Yeah, there's a little background noise. There's some truck driving by.
Hopefully I didn't catch it. But what do you do for marketing? I mean, or what's your best advice for marketing for guys that are just starting out?
Gosh, I guess very, very first starting out, Phil, you're going to need to identify your target audience. Mm-hmm. You're going to need to identify what neighborhoods you want to go into, and that's going to depend on the marketing. For example, when I first got started, my target demographic would be senior citizens or retirees or the older folks that might have more money. I was thinking I wanted to go after the neighborhood that had money. Mm-hmm. The seniors in the neighborhood had money, but how do I connect with the senior citizens? The seniors, they're not on Facebook, they're not on Craigslist, they're not on these. So how am I going to connect with them? And so I put an ad in the newspaper, but not just any newspaper. It was the senior citizen newspaper. Mm-hmm. We have a senior center in the neighborhood, and they put out a little weekly newsletter type of thing. Yeah. And I put an ad in that, and that was really instrumental because again, I knew my target audience was the seniors, and I know they're reading this old little newspaper. It's kind of a nickel and dime type of little half newspaper they get once a week, and my ad was in that. And it was, again, like I said, it was instrumental because these old folks are reading the paper and they're seeing the ad, and they would call me. And then also I made a point about introducing myself to the community, the senior community. Again, I would go to the senior center. Maybe I would volunteer. I would do something at the center. At the time, my Kiwanis Club was meeting at the senior center weekly. So I was kind of there, and I kind of knew some of the people. I met the people on the board. And I started working for one of the guys that was working on the board, and he, of course, would tell his friends. And so that
was that your first client?
Yeah, that was one of my very first clients. Was a guy that worked at the senior center. He was on the board, and of course, he was the one that recommended, hey, I should advertise to these folks, and I did. And so when I very, very, very first got started, within say the first few months, that was my target audience. I had 4 or 5 or 6 seniors that I was cutting lawn for, and it worked out pretty well. So initially, that's what I did because I identified my target audience. They got the money, they got the neighborhood, and they had that. Had I maybe been targeting somebody else, my marketing would have been different. Maybe I would have gone on the Facebook, or maybe I would have done the Craigslist, but my marketing when I first got started was different. It's certainly changed over the years, but that's what happened when I first got started.
Yeah. I see a lot of people that say, well, I don't have any money to put my name into a newspaper. How about any type of free marketing advice?
Yeah, that's
strategies.
Yeah, that's kind of tricky. You're right. I did have to pay a few bucks. I think it was like $50 or something a week, which is kind of a lot of money when you're first getting started to get your ad into that thing.
Some people are like, I'm dead broke. I have no money. I got an eviction notice on my door. I got phone bill to pay. Man, they're going to cut my phone off. The internet.
You use what you have available to you. Like Phil, for example, I see here in your office you have a printer, and you got a ream of paper there, and you got a computer. I want to assume most people would have something like this, or maybe they have access to their local library where they can print off a few things for virtually free. I'm going to say, you could target audience, target marketing, target area within your house. within your neighborhood or whatever, or even if that means driving across town to get to your target market, is use your printer at home, use the paper you already have, and maybe print out flyers. And I know you don't like door knocking so much,
No.
but that's what I did. I did a lot of door knocking in my specific neighborhood, and it's really, really tough, when you put one of these paper campaigns together and you hand out flyers. Your return on investment is like 1%.
Yeah.
So you hand out 100 of these things, you might get one person to call you, and out of those 1 or 2 people that call you, maybe one person out of that is actually going to sign up. So you have to canvass a large area and spend a lot of time. And I spent hours, days just handing out flyers. Again, maybe I'd hand out 500 flyers in a day, say, and I would knock on a handful of doors and I would talk to people. And out of those 500, I maybe got 5 phone calls, and out of those 5 phone calls, I maybe got 2 solid clients.
So 1%.
Yeah, I would say 1% or 0.5% of the 1% that actually call you and you agree to the quote. So it's a lot, but again, you're first getting started, and all you have is time at this point, and so you're able to canvass the neighborhood. You're able to put your ads up in the senior paper. Maybe you can do those free Craigslist ads. Like you mentioned, you did the Craigslist ads.
Yeah, I did the free, but now they're $5.
Yeah, they're virtually
still
free,
got
$5.
Nextdoor, Facebook.
Nextdoor
every
is
other
a good
free,
one.
every free platform that you can get on and get your name out there, I think is very beneficial.
Yeah, I would stay away from any kind of pay-to-play service like an Angie's List or like a House.
Thumbtack.
Home
Advisor.
I would just Home Advisor. I would just stay away from those guys. They're just not.
And I wouldn't even put your name on one of those. Like, I don't create a profile on, because they'll bug you.
Yeah.
They'll call you like 50 times throughout the year, each individual.
It's free. You're right. It's free to put a profile on Angie's List or whatever, but then, you're in the system and they'll just call you.
You're in the system and they'll call you. So it's sometimes, I even went to the verge of trying to delete my profiles because I'm like, well, I got all the clients I need.
Yeah.
And they're calling, they're always like, they mispronounce Spokane. They say Spokane. I'm like, you're not local. Even if it's a local number, you're like, no, I know where you're coming from. So, but I agree with I agree 100% with what you said. I really agree with that idea of you have a computer, you have a printer, you have, stack of paper, 1,000 sheets of paper, go print 1,000. Well, you might need to buy some ink. That's the thing.
I found it's actually cheaper to go to like Kinko's or something like that.
Yeah, and have them print it.
Print out 1,000 for whatever, just $20 or whatever.
Yeah, big shout out to Greg Chisholm. I saw one of his videos on marketing, and the way he did it was he got a bunch of rubber bands, printed out all those flyers, just wrote his name, his company name, and says, I mow lawns, I mow, trim, edge, and blow weekly or bi-weekly. If you're just starting out, you can do bi-weekly. And here's my price, like my minimum price, and it's like 30. Back then it was like $30. It was very cheap. He got rubber bands and he would go door to door. He would not skip one single person. He would go door to door and put a rubber band with the paper around their doorknob or inside their crack of the door.
Sure.
And he'd leave just like that. And then he'd just go door to door and spend a whole day handing out 1,000 sheets of his marketing material.
And I think that's important. You said he went every single door.
Yeah.
He didn't skip them, because there was a lot of folks where I would look at the lawn or whatever and I think, this guy, there's no way he's
not going to pay.
Yeah. And I got a couple customers that way by just handing them out. It's like, this guy's never going to. And they stuck with me for years. For 10 years now, they've been my customer from a single flyer that cost me like a nickel to print out. And even in the back of my head, even today, I still remember thinking, I'm not going to hand out this flyer. I'm not going to go to leave it on their door. It's a waste of my nickel. I'm not even going to do that. But it worked out.
That nickel turned into what? A couple $1,000?
Thousands of dollars. Yeah. Every year for the last 10 years, it's been $1,500.
Yeah.
So, $15,000 at least.
Yeah. So, I think that's a great marketing strategy. Door to door, like I've always not been so confident, but when people just start out, it's whatever you can do, whatever you can get.
When I was driving in here, Phil, I saw one of your signs on the side of the road, one of those little Phil's Lawn Care, those little political type of signs, about this big. How much do those things cost, and what is your return? Like, have you gotten anybody call you from those?
I actually did. So for, I believe it was 50 signs, it was around $100, $150. So it's fairly cheap with cheap. The stakes.
Yeah.
And I think it was like signsbythecheap.com or something like that. It might be around, it might not. But from 50 of those signs, I still have some in the garage. I have to spread them out since we're moving. I don't want to really place them here. I want to place them where I move. But from that $150 I spent, I gained 3 clients, and they bring me over, let's say, 6,000-7,000 a year.
Good, yeah.
So the return on investment, if you just get one client, a weekly service, weekly mowing client, I mean, that's more than $1,000 just by mowing.
Now, where do you put them? Do you put them on the side of the road? Do you put them in people's yards? Like, where do you strategically place these things?
I've done both. It depends on where the client is. If this client just lives in his own property on a dirt road, there's no point in putting your sign there. He's the only one that lives there, and more than likely, if he has 2 or 3 neighbors, well, sure, you could just rather go and put a business card on their door, right? Because if they want their service, if they want lawn care service, it's cheaper just to give them a business card than put a sign there and hope that they call you. I think it's beneficial to put signs on main roads and like main 4-way stops. The homeless people actually got it down, because the homeless people stand, I'm serious, they stand in the busiest places, in the busiest corners. Yeah. And I heard from a long time ago, there used to be a homeless guy, and he would break down a strategy. He would say, I stand in this spot. If you're not here by this time, you're not going to get any money. Huh. And it's very interesting. I'm like, wow. So if I put my sign here at this, just put it there. Yeah. More people might see it, and so I put it there. And then, a week later, you drive by and it's gone. Oh, yeah. Sometimes the city takes them. Sure. Or somebody just rips it off, or another competitor rips it off and throws it. And so, things like that. If you can get people, 1,000 people to view the sign and maybe one person call, that's good enough. Yeah. But I put them in places where I'm sure they won't get removed. If you put them in private property, they'll get removed. Sure. And so if you see places where there's a lot of signs, then sure, kind of maybe put your sign there as well. Because I always I don't know about you, but I'm always driving down the road. If you stop at a 4-way, you see a sign, you read it. Sure. You see like gutter cleaning, window cleaning. Yeah. If you see lawn care, like something that's just like lawn care with the number, or window cleaning with the number. If you need window cleaning service, you'll call the number and see their prices. Sure. So I did that, and that's where I'm putting them, but I think half of them already got removed. So. Yeah, well, that's still okay. You got a couple clients out of it. Oh yeah. So I heard you say earlier, you said something along the lines of actually writing down the minimum price, or actually telling people the minimum price with not seeing it. Now, I'm not a big fan of disclosing pricing over the phone. I would give them a rough estimate, but I don't want to get nailed down to a cheap price. What do you think about minimum pricing versus just a ballpark pricing? Or I always say my minimum, because sometimes you can say the minimum. Well, what I do, I say the minimum, then I say the ballpark after that. Okay. Because some people are like, well, half the people that call me are price shoppers. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. You say a minimum to come out to the yard is whatever, $40 or $50, and then usually it's about whatever, 50 to 60 or whatever. Yeah, and also I don't want to say I'm lying to the clients. When I'm real busy, I got 60 weekly clients and I'm not looking to take on any people, the minimum goes up. Yeah, and that tactic is well, our minimum $60. Supply and demand. You want me to come look at your yard? It's going to be between $60 to $100 to mow your grass. Yeah. And usually they're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And especially if it's out of the area. Yeah. You don't really necessarily want to transition and drive to the area, so you're like, well, we're raising our rates. Usually hopefully the guy would say, hey, when can you come? Yeah, you're right. All right. He hasn't really asked about pricing. Yeah, go. Yeah, but I always say my minimum, because I have a lot of people that are still living in their 90s, and they think that lawn care services cost $20. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, we're not. We're living in the 21st century. And we're not the kid, next door doing it for $10, just for the heck of it, whenever he feels like it. We're doing this professionally, licensed and bonded and insured. Yep. You got good equipment. You got good equipment here behind you, man. Yeah. I mean, it's not cheap. Yeah. It doesn't pay for itself as well. It's money out of our pockets that we have to recuperate. Yeah, it's not like we just took our mom's lawnmower out of the garage and started pushing it around the lawnmower. We're doing this for a living. Yeah, and we got rent to pay. We got so much overhead to pay, man. It's just, it's non-profitable to. You'd be a non-profit business running if you're really even making $20. Yeah. You would just be making ends meet. But no, that's why I always say my minimum beforehand. Yeah. So that way I could filter out the clients and say, you know what, that's not my client. If they say, oh, that's too much, can you do 40? No.
Yeah, I think that's important to mention too. Just really knowing your target audience and knowing like the neighborhood. Again, we've talked about that before. You really got to know your target demographic of the people or the area or the neighborhood you're going after. Because you can't afford, like when I first started, I couldn't afford to walk all over town, handing out flyers all over town, you know, and I made mistakes. Yeah, I went into a different neighborhood. I went into the Shadle neighborhood, which I thought was a good neighborhood. It's still a nice neighborhood. And I handed out hundreds of flyers, and I got a few people asking about pricing, but I never got one solid customer from that neighborhood. And it kind of felt like a big waste of time, while if I spent my time somewhere else, it would have been better.
Right. So, well, that was for beginners, people that are maybe just starting out, maybe have a handful of clients. What about a marketing strategy for people that have maybe over 50 clients, like me? I mean, I got over 50 clients. I'm still solo. What's a good marketing technique or strategy or platform that maybe you think would benefit me from gaining not only just more clients, but specifically like maybe good clients that are pay more or commercial?
You know, you're not gonna like this, Phil, but if I was in your situation and I'm about maxed out, I just pull all my advertising all together.
Guess what? That's what I did.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's good. Yeah, I mean, you got to pull all the advertising, you know, because you're kind of wasting the money, because you get you get people calling you like, well, I can't do it, or I'm full, or you know, whatever, you know. And then by this point, now you got say you got solid 50 clients, but you've done business with, you know, hundreds.
Yeah.
I mean, my client list is, I might have a solid core of like 100 people I do every week. But I mean, my mailing list and people that I've done business with in the past is thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, I must have 10, 15,000 people that I've touched over the course of 10 years. And so they're on my mailing list. But again, I'm not, you know, marketing to all those people, but they know who I am, and I mean, maybe once a year I'll send them an email. Yeah. But that's about as much marketing as I do. And again, I've networked with guys like Phil. I've networked with other professionals here in town. And if they don't do the job, they can send it to me. Or if I don't do it, I send it to them. And I pulled virtually all my advertising. There's no more Senior Center newsletter. There's no more Craigslist. There's no more Facebook. There's nothing. I have a static website online where customers can go to and pay their bill. And when I mean static, I mean I don't update it. I don't put on new pictures. I don't have a vlog. I don't have videos. I don't have anything. It's just a static, stuck website where customers can find out about me and they can pay their bill. And that's all I do. And it's all word of mouth after that.
Yeah. I'll touch base on the website. That was actually one of my next questions. But I want to say something about, pulling all your marketing and advertisement. Yeah, I don't spend nothing. And I always, when I pulled my advertisement from every platform, other than Google and like my Facebook page and maybe even YouTube, but I don't usually get people.
Yeah, they don't call you from
YouTube.
Yeah, come on, call us, guys.
When I did that, I expected nobody to call.
But they just keep calling.
They just keep calling, and I sometimes ask them like, "Hey, where did you hear about us?"
Yeah.
Word of mouth.
Yeah.
We mow their friend's yard or their brother's yard, whatever. Or they're like, well, we just Google lawn care near me. Google.
Yeah.
Google my business.
Yeah.
And that's free.
Yeah.
I didn't do a single thing except collect reviews and put pictures on there in my website.
You know, and another thing I've done over the course of the many, many years, I put signs on the side of my truck. Yeah. And that's tremendous. It's a huge thing, you know. You get a ton of people stopping you.
Now, what if I put signs, but I'm maxed out?
That's a good point. Well, I don't do it just for the advertising. Yes, there is an important advertising aspect to it. You know, you want to get your name out there. But also, I think it adds to your professionalism. You know, why do you wear a sweatshirt?
To look professional.
The same thing with my pickup truck is I want to have a nice sign on the side to have, you know, look. And then, you know, you go on and maybe you grow and you have employees, you're definitely going to be putting on a shirt and a sign and, you know, looking more professional.
Yeah, you bring value to the table when you do that. Yeah.
And I hate to say it, guys, if you're out, we're going to talk a couple things here. If you're just getting started, we've talked about using what you have available to you. You're just going to use your printer at home and you're just going to print out some flyers. Again, you're just going to use what's available to you. Maybe all you have is a broken down, crummy old truck or a car. You know, that's kind of how I started. But as you progress, you know, I would expect to see, you know, or say you've been doing 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, I don't want to see that same crummy pickup truck that you had on year one. You know, I'd like to see some progression. You know, like you've done a good job. You started out in Little Colorado.
Little Colorado.
And then you put the signs on the side. No,
you know what I started out with? The Nissan Sentra.
Oh, all right.
With the push mower in the back.
Yeah, that's like me
got
too.
the trimmer in the middle because it doesn't fit anywhere else. So it's got to be in the middle of the seats.
Yeah, and it's got
the grass everywhere. And the blower is in the passenger seat. That's how I started out.
That's excellent. And then, but you're not driving that same Nissan Sentra now a few years later, are you?
The Colorado was such an upgrade.
Yeah.
Getting a truck.
You got a
even
pickup
though
truck.
I didn't even have a trailer, man. The truck was just like whoa,
and then you got a sign for the side of your truck.
Yeah.
You got like a decal on the side.
Yeah.
And then you got a trailer.
Then I got a trailer.
And then you upgraded your truck over the time.
Yeah.
So you went
progression.
From, same here. I would start it out in a 4-door sedan too.
Mm-hmm.
But if you saw that same 4-door sedan pulling up to your house year after year after year after year, and the guys
if I was a customer, I'd be like, hey man,
especially the thing with my billing is that I always bill at the end of the month because I don't want to feel like I'm like shaking down the customer trying to get money out of them every single time. It's just, for me, it feels kind of bad. It gets that bad kind of aura or kind of thing out there. Show up in a crummy pickup or a crummy car, and then you're shaking down the customer right after you get the work done, like you need to go get your fix somewhere. It gives a bad impression, I think.
All right, so we just want to take a break real quick. We're gonna get some water, just talk a little bit off camera. In the meantime, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and also comment
below
what you got. You got any questions or something we can answer. Please comment down below, and we'll get to them as fast as we can. All right, so Take two, yeah. All right, so we talked about marketing. We talked about marketing when you're just starting out, and we also talked about what you should do maybe when you're 50, 60 clients, and still solo. I mean, if you're, if you're trying to get employees, then I think you should continue.
Definitely keep pushing the advertising in your network and in the community, and just keep that budget.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing as well is also asking your prospects how they found out about you.
Absolutely.
Because you won't know how they, where they saw,
critical.
what kind of ad they saw.
That's often overlooked.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know what you would say, not cheesy or like, I don't know, I guess an extra question for them to ask before they're even your client. But I think it's a good thing to ask. I've called, like rental home places, and they're like, the first thing they ask before they even get my information is like, oh, how'd you find out about this?
Yeah, it's normal. It's not
maybe it's like an icebreaker or something.
Yeah. And I make a point of it too. If I refer somebody, I say, oh, I'm sorry I can't help you, but Phil can. And I want you to mention me because I'm setting you up because I want you to know I want you to mention that Chris over at Keystone Lawn Care referred you. And he'll give you a fair price. Yeah. And that's important. I'm not going to say Phil's going to give you a deal or Phil's cheap or not. Phil's going to give you a good price. Let them know that Chris, you heard from you. And then when they call Phil, hey, it's, Chris over at Keystone called, and then question answered.
Exactly. Yeah. You already know where they're coming from. Yeah. So, well, all right. I know I said we get back to website. How critical is it to have a website presence when you're just starting out? I mean, do you think it's like a necessity when you just start out?
Yeah.
So why? Can you explain?
I absolutely say it's a necessity because one, Google is such it's almost a free resource really. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to be found on Google really at all unless you have some sort of website. Yeah. And there are a lot of different website companies out there, so don't get the first one that happens to call you. I would kind of do your homework and look through them. And also, you can always talk them down. Their initial pricing for your initial setup for your thing. And again, you're first getting started. Maybe you don't know anything about computers or whatever, and you think some solicitor calls you, says, "Hey, we're gonna get you on Google," and you're like, "Yeah, all right." You're all excited. And they charge you whatever $1,000 for setup, and then after that, it's like $50 a month or $100 a month, and they got you. It's tough. And what I did is I went through something similar. When I first got started, I didn't really know, what I'm doing. And I fell, victim to one of those people calling you and saying, hey, we're going to set up a website. Yeah. And I did. And I felt like I paid too much money, but I went back and I negotiated it. That's important because you can always go back and negotiate and talk price down. I got my static website. It's already set up. I must have paid, I don't know, a few $100 probably, maybe $400 or $500 I initially set it up years and years ago. Mm-hmm. But since then, I paid $20 a month. Yeah. That's it. $20 a month for a website. And then that was it's professionally made. It's got like videos, it's got beautiful pictures, it's sharp looking. And then as I started going, I wanted to, there's these different websites and advertising you can do. You can have a landing page or a splash page, they call it, where you kind of capture the person and then they drive it to the website or whatever. Yeah. Well, actually nowadays I have 2 websites. I have, before I had 3 or 4, I had different splash pages directing people. But now I have the old-fashioned static website that I've had for 10, 11, 12 years now. And then since then I've upgraded. I've gotten a second website with GoDaddy, and because I use GoDaddy for my website and that's another thing we talk about professionalism, we're wearing shirts, is that I wanted to have my own email address. Keystone Lawn Care, Keystone Lawn Care Services, Keystone Lawn Care Spokane, Keystone Lawn and Tree Care. I own them all. Yeah. And then and they all say Chris at Keystone Lawn Care Services.
Because you don't want, when you're just starting out, you're going to make a mail or Gmail. And you'll have like mine was philslawn@gmail.com.
Yeah. But that's all what you can afford at the time.
Exactly.
But I would say quickly right after that, you upgrade. You got a truck. You got a sign for your side of your truck. You got a website, and you can have these things professionally done. And if you have a knack for it, I thought after doing it for so many years, my GoDaddy website looks pretty sharp. I did it myself. I'm pretty happy about it. And then my static website again is professionally made. It just sits there.
Yeah, I made my website through Wix, and I also pay
similar.
I pay on a yearly basis, and sometimes they give discounts if you pay 2 years ahead.
Sure, I did that on GoDaddy. Does the same thing. I pay a few $100 and got the.
Yeah, and it's one less thing to worry about. We all have monthly or annual fees that we have to pay in business. Like we got to pay for our website, we got to pay for insurance. Licensing. And
that's all budgeted into your. Maybe the first year you haven't set yourself a budget because you don't really know how much things cost. But by the second or third year, in the back of your head, even if you don't have it written down, you should have it written down. But even if you don't, you know that your Wix website's coming up. You're going to pay a few $100 for that. Your insurance is coming up. You're going to have to start paying for that. And so that the marketing should be built into the budget right now in the beginning of the years. Yeah.
And I think another thing about websites is, on my website, my primary objective when they click on my website is you'll see everywhere. If you get on philslawncare.com, you'll see everywhere, contact us, get a quote.
You have to have that quote in there.
Exactly.
That's
so
important.
If you make a website that all it is informative of how you started your business and what kind of services you offer, with no call to action, you're not going to get any leads. They're just going to be like, well, okay, here's the summary of what Phil's Lawn Care does and how he started.
I get a fair amount.
It's worthless unless it's worthless unless you do contact us. Little fill out a form thing, what kind of services you'd like, and you also call to action is very key. It doesn't matter.
Call today for a free estimate. Call today. Do it today.
Click here for a quote. I have them click on either they can call me on the top of the page. I have my number on there,
and it's highlighted. So if you're on a mobile device, you just click it and it makes a phone call.
You got a little phone button. They click it. Automatically it brings up technology's just progressed so much where it's just the more simple and people love simplicity. They don't want to click through 5 different links.
If you have to hold and click and paste and then put it into your phone app and then paste it into your phone, forget it.
Or
you
scan a QR code.
No, you just got to click. Done.
It's click. And I want it now. We live in a generation where it's I want it now. I want it fast. I want it now. And so people, when they get on your mobile, and website's got to be mobile friendly as well. So if it's not mobile friendly, if they have to zoom in and get on a computer, they'll forget about it. They won't be.
That's pretty standard nowadays.
So, but it's I've had so many people that call me because they're and even compliment me. They're like, "Wow, your website looks really nice."
Same here.
And I want your service, not because of your website presence and Google presence, but because they initially seen how much time I've actually put into creating my website.
And it looks professional.
And how much I value
and
how much I value my company. I actually truly care for my business. Some people are like, well, I'll just throw something up and who cares?
You gotta have.
It actually shows when you do the work too.
Well, and also too, you'll have repeat business. Will call you back, and maybe the only thing they can remember was Phil or Keystone in Spokane, or wherever, and. If you don't have a website, if you don't really have even a little bit of advertising, they're not going to find you.
Right. Yeah. They'll type in Keystone And depending on how good you are on Google, I mean, you'll rank Keystone Lawn and Tree Care. Oh yeah, or Keystone Lawn.
No, it could just be Keystone Lawn Spokane even, and it would pop up.
Yeah. But if that's all they remember, Keystone, they don't remember your phone number or anything like that.
Or maybe they remember my name.
Yeah, and you're not on Google, they'll never find you.
No, absolutely not.
So they'll be scrambling for that business card or finding that contact where they heard you about.
Yeah.
And that's, again, we want it fast, we want it now. And so if you're not on the web, on Google or on the internet, a lot of you're missing out on a lot of.
Yeah, and this stuff doesn't cost very much money. You know, again, we talked about handing out flyers, which is cheap. You know, you can get your free Google listing. Again, Google listing, provided you have a website, it would help a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and these things, then the services, like I said, I'm only paying $20 a month on one of my websites, and I think my GoDaddy account is like maybe $500 for the whole year or something like that. And I get emails and I get all sorts of bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll wrap up for today's video. We really appreciate you guys' support, also your viewership, and thank you so much for all those that have already hit the like. If you haven't, please hit the like button. We'd really appreciate that. Also consider subscribing if this is your first time watching this video. Check out Chris. What are some of your social media?
Oh, I got the Chris at Keystone Lawn and Tree Care is my email address. I got Keystone Lawn and Tree Care in Spokane is my website address. I got Keystone Lawn Care Services on YouTube.
Make sure to follow him, and also check out some of his videos. I'm on there. By the time this video uploads, we'll probably have like 3 or 4 videos.
Yeah, we'll have a couple of these going on.
Yeah. So check him out. Check out his episodes. We made more of these on his channel, so make sure to leave a like on his videos as well. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. God bless you. Take care. We'll see you in the next one.